The text message from Stacy hit me like a physical blow. Dad's gone. Funeral is Friday. No condolences, no sorry for your loss, just the cold, hard fact. Before I could even process it, another message buzzed in, this one from Denise. My mother, 56, was never one for subtlety. Don't bother showing your face, Isla. You disgraced this family when you walked away. Your father deserved better than a failure for a daughter. You are not welcome. My name is Isla, and at 29, I built a tech startup from the ground up. But in my mother's eyes, I'm still the failure who abandoned the Franklin legacy. The memory of that fight 3 years ago, when I was 26, still burned. I told them I was leaving the family's real estate empire, the one my father Forrest had built and Denise, 56, had meticulously branded, to pursue my own vision. Denise had called it a betrayal. Stacy, my older sister, 33, and Jaden, my eldest brother, 31, had stood silently by, their faces a mix of disapproval and relief that I was no longer the golden child. Even Hallie, 26, my younger sister, had offered only a saccharine. Are you sure, Isla? It's such a stable path. Stable, yes. Soul crushing, also, yes. Now my father, the only one who ever truly saw me, was gone, and my mother had banned me from his funeral. I scrolled through social media, a morbid habit I couldn't shake. There they were, a somber group photo of Denise, Stacy, Jaden, and Hallie, all dressed in black, arms linked, captioned, Our hearts are broken, remembering our beloved Forrest. I wasn't just uninvited, I was a wraith, a ghost in their carefully curated grief. They were the picture of a united grieving family, and I was the inconvenient truth they'd scrubbed from the narrative. My phone buzzed again, not a text, an email. It was from Dad, sent just 3 days ago. My heart hammered against my ribs. My hands trembled as I opened the email. The subject line was simple, thinking of you. It was from Dad, my father Forrest, who was now just a memory. Isla, it began, I know things have been hard since you left. Your mother, your siblings, they don't understand, but I do. I've always been so incredibly proud of you, of your courage to build something of your own. Don't ever let them convince you that you're a failure. You are anything but. I regret not being stronger, not standing up for you more, but I've made arrangements to ensure you're taken care of and that your path is clear. Trust me on this, my girl, and keep shining. A tear traced a path down my cheek. He'd known. He'd always known. I remembered the anonymous seed funding that had appeared in my startup's account 6 months after I'd left the family business, just when I was about to give up. The email from the investor had simply said, Believe in your vision. I'd suspected it was him, a quiet act of defiance against Denise's iron rule. He'd always slipped me books on entrepreneurship disguised as birthday gifts, even when I was a teenager, 16 or 17, still trapped in the expectation of joining the family empire. He'd seen me, truly seen me, even when he couldn't openly support me. You have to go, Harper, my best friend said later that evening, her voice firm through the phone. She was 28, a year younger than me, but always grounded. It's your father, Isla. Don't let Denise win this. She already has, I replied, staring at the funeral notice on my laptop screen, the one my mother had posted, conspicuously omitting my name. She's banned me. If I show up, it'll be a scene, a spectacle for her to point at and say, Look at the drama she causes. My dignity is my revenge, Harper. I won't give her the satisfaction. The thought of facing their sneering faces, of being a pariah at my own father's memorial, was unbearable. I spent Friday alone, nursing a cup of cold coffee, imagining the service, the forced smiles, the whispered condolences, the carefully orchestrated grief. I knew they'd all be there, playing their parts while I was miles away, feeling a grief that was raw and private. The weekend passed in a blur of work and quiet sorrow. Then Monday morning my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. "Isla Franklin?" a formal voice asked. "This is Andre Dixon. I'm your father's estate lawyer. I need you to come to the will reading, Tuesday 10 a.m. at the family estate." My breath hitched. Andre was a family friend, part of their inner circle. Why me? Why now? And why did I have to go to their house? The drive to the family estate felt like a journey back in time, each familiar landmark a punch to the gut. The sprawling Franklin mansion, a monument to my father's ambition and my mother's meticulously cultivated image, loomed ahead. It was Tuesday, 10 a.m., exactly as Andre had specified. My stomach churned. I parked my modest sedan amongst their luxury cars, Jaden's sleek black sports car, Stacy's pristine SUV, Denise's classic convertible. As I walked up the familiar marble steps, the front door swung open. Hallie, my younger sister, 26, stood there, her usual sweet smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Isla," she said, her voice a little too high. You came." "Andre asked me to," I replied, my voice flat. Inside, the air was thick with unspoken words. Denise, 56, was already seated in the formal living room, impeccably dressed, a picture of composed grief. She rose, a brittle smile on her lips. "Isla, darling." What a surprise! Though, of course, Andre insisted, family matters after all. Her eyes, however, were cold, assessing. Stacy, 33, and Jaden, 31, were perched on the edge of the antique sofas, their expressions a mix of disdain and curiosity. Jaden barely nodded. Stacy just gave me a tight, almost imperceptible sneer. Andre Dixon, 5'4", the family lawyer, sat at the head of the polished mahogany table, a thick manila folder in front of him. He offered me a small, sympathetic smile, the only genuine warmth in the room. "Well, now that everyone is here," Denise announced, her voice ringing with false authority, "we can begin. I suppose we all know what this is about. Forrest was a meticulous man. Everything will be in order." She glanced at me, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. Of course, some people choose to distance themselves from family, and with distance comes consequences. Stacy snickered softly. Jaden shifted a smug look on his face. They all assumed I was here for a token, a small gesture of my father's generosity, perhaps, a final public humiliation. Denise leaned in conspiratorially, catching my eye. "Just between us, darling," she whispered, her voice laced with venom, "you won't be leaving here with anything more than the memories you so carelessly discarded." She didn't know. She had no idea what Forrest had truly arranged. Andre cleared his throat, the sound echoing in the tense silence of the room. He opened the thick manila folder, retrieved a sheaf of papers, and began to read Forrest's last will and testament. Denise, 56, sat ramrod straight, a picture of confident expectation. Stacy, 33, and Jaden, 31, exchanged knowing glances, already mentally dividing their shares of the empire. Hallie, 26, looked nervous, occasionally glancing at me, then quickly away. Andre droned through the initial legal formalities, the standard clauses about funeral arrangements and executor duties. Then he paused, adjusting his glasses. "Now, regarding the distribution of assets." Denise's eyes gleamed. "The company shares, of course, are to be divided amongst the children who have dedicated their lives to the business," she interjected, her voice dripping with self-importance. "And the estate, naturally to me, as his devoted wife." Andre offered her a tight, almost imperceptible smile. "Actually, Mrs. Franklin, the will specifies a different arrangement." He continued, his voice calm and steady. "To my beloved wife, Denise Franklin, I leave the sum of $1." A collective gasp ripped through the room. Denise's jaw dropped, her face paling. Stacy and Jaden looked utterly bewildered. Andre continued, his gaze sweeping across the stunned faces, landing briefly on mine. To my children, Stacy Franklin, Jaden Franklin, and Hallie Franklin, I leave the sum of $1 each. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by Denise's sharp intake of breath. Stacy looked like she'd been slapped. Jaden's face was a mask of disbelief, then fury. And finally, Andre stated, his voice now resonating with a quiet power, to my daughter, Isla Franklin, I bequeath my entire estate, including all shares in Franklin Real Estate Holdings, all personal investments, properties, and liquid assets, totaling $12.7 million. To my only child who ever stood alone, who had the courage to forge her own path, and who, despite all, continued to shine. The room erupted. Denise screamed a guttural sound of pure rage and betrayal. This is impossible. She manipulated him. She turned him against us. Stacy shrieked, Isla, you conniving bitch! How could you? Jaden surged to his feet, his face contorted. This is a fraud. We'll contest it. You won't get a penny. I sat there numb, the words echoing in my ears. My only child who ever stood alone. My father had seen me. He had truly seen me. Denise, her face blotchy with fury, pointed a trembling finger at me. You think this is over? You think you've won? I will contest this will, Isla. I will destroy you. I will make sure you lose everything just like you deserve. The family's fury was a physical force, but I remained outwardly calm, a silent anchor in their storm. Andre, 54, quickly ushered them out, promising to discuss their options later. As the front door slammed shut, leaving me alone in the vast, echoing living room, the weight of what had just happened settled over me. $12.7 million, the entire Franklin empire handed to me, the disgraced daughter. I walked through the silent house, room after room, each filled with memories. My father's study, the scent of old books and leather, the grand dining room where family dinners had been a performance, not a meal. The victory was immense, a poetic comeuppance for years of being cast aside, but it was also hollow. I stood in the center of the living room, surrounded by inherited wealth, and felt in profound loneliness. This wasn't a family home anymore. It was a monument to a shattered legacy, and I was its reluctant custodian. The cost of this triumph was the final, undeniable severing of any remaining ties. Later that day, as I was trying to process everything, Hallie, 26, called. Her voice was small, hesitant. Isla, she started, I just wanted to say, I always envied you, your courage, to just leave. I never could. A pause. But I also resented you for making it look so easy, for being the one he noticed. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was the closest she'd ever come to honesty. Then came the text from Stacy, 33, and Jaden, 31, a tag team of emotional manipulation. Stacy's, Isla, please, we're family. Dad wouldn't have wanted this. We can work something out. Jaden's, think about Mom. This is destroying her. You can't let this happen. The desperation in their words was palpable, a mirror of my own desperation 3 years ago when I'd first left, when I was 26 and my startup was just a dream, when I'd faced financial ruin and the crushing weight of their disapproval. I remembered eating instant noodles for weeks, working 18-hour days, convinced I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Now they were the ones facing the abyss. The next morning the first call came, then another. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Isla Franklin, heiress to the Franklin fortune. Can you comment on the will reading? Paparazzi had already started gathering outside my small apartment building. The news had leaked. My new life, the quiet independence I'd fought so hard for, was about to be turned upside down. The media frenzy was immediate and brutal. "Disgraced daughter inherits millions, family in uproar," screamed one headline. My phone became a hot potato of calls from journalists and concerned investors. Then the official notice arrived. Denise, 56, had filed suit to contest the will, claiming undue influence and estrangement. The legal battle was on. Denise, ever the master manipulator, wasted no time. She gave tearful interviews, painting me as a heartless opportunist who had abandoned my dying father only to swoop in for his money. Stacy, 33, and Jaden, 31, backed her up, sharing carefully crafted stories about my supposed cruelty and disinterest in the family. Online, the narrative was clear. I was the villain. Former associates, pressured by the Franklin name, started pulling out of potential deals with my startup, citing negative publicity. My carefully built empire was teetering. "This is exactly what she wants," Harper 28 said, pacing my small living room, which now felt even smaller with the weight of the world pressing in. "To isolate you, to make you cave." "Not a chance," I retorted, my jaw tight. "I didn't fight this hard to give up now." We spent hours strategizing. "We need to control the narrative," I decided. "They're painting me as a gold digger. I'll be the self-made outcast, the one who dared to dream beyond their gilded cage." With Harper's help, I crafted a public statement, released through my startup's PR channels. It acknowledged the inheritance but focused on my 3 years of independent struggle, the sacrifices I'd made to build my company from nothing, and my father's quiet, unwavering belief in me. I shared a few carefully chosen anecdotes about his covert encouragement, hinting at the true nature of our bond. The public, tired of the usual corporate drama, ate it up. The outcast heiress narrative resonated, shifting sympathy in my favor. Comments online started turning. "Good for her, breaking free." "Sounds like the dad knew what he was doing." Just as the tide began to turn, an anonymous email landed in Andre's inbox, forwarded to me immediately. It contained a trove of meticulously detailed financial records, bank statements, transfer logs, and internal accounting documents. The evidence was damning. Denise, over the past 5 years, had systematically siphoned significant sums of money from Forrest's personal accounts, transferring them into shell corporations she secretly controlled. It wasn't just a few thousand, it was hundreds of thousands, potentially millions over time. My mother hadn't just been ambitious, she'd been a thief. The evidence of Denise's embezzlement was a bombshell. Andre, 54, my lawyer, moved swiftly. He presented the findings to the court, not just as a defense against their lawsuit, but as a counterclaim. The judge, seeing the clear pattern of financial fraud, swiftly dismissed Denise's attempt to contest the will. Not only was her case dead in the water, but Andre also pressed for a full investigation into the siphoned funds, hinting at potential criminal charges. The news hit the media like a tidal wave. "Franklin matriarch accused of embezzlement," the headline screamed, replacing my disgraced daughter narrative with a far more damning one for Denise, 56. Her carefully constructed public image shattered, revealing the ruthless ambition beneath. The family's house of cards collapsed. Stacy, 33, and Jaden, 31, who had so eagerly stood by her, now scrambled to distance themselves, issuing carefully worded statements about their shock and disappointment. Hallie, 26, remained silent, but I knew she was watching. Denise demanded a meeting. She came to my apartment unannounced, her face a mask of fury and desperation. "Isla," she began, her voice trembling, "how could you do this? To your own mother? After everything I've done for you, for this family." I looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time in years, without fear or longing. "Everything you've done?" I asked, my voice steady. "You banned me from my father's funeral. You called me a failure. You tried to destroy my business. You gaslit me for years, making me believe my dreams were worthless. You cultivated an image of family unity while secretly undermining my father and stealing from him. Her eyes widened, but I didn't let her interrupt. You created a toxic environment where loyalty meant blind obedience, where individual ambition was crushed. You betrayed Dad's trust and you betrayed mine. This isn't about money, Denise. This is about truth, and for once the truth is on my side. She tried to conjure tears, to play the victim, but it was too late. The power she once held over me was gone, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. She was just a woman, stripped of her carefully constructed facade. She left in a huff, her threats hollow, her power broken. I had won. The will was secure, my name cleared, and my mother's reputation in tatters. But as I stood in my quiet apartment, the silence was heavy. The victory was complete, undeniable, yet it felt hollow. Was I finally free, or had the years of fighting, of proving myself, simply bound me to this toxic legacy in a different way? A few weeks later, I moved into a sleek penthouse apartment downtown, a stark contrast to the old family estate. The house, the Franklin real estate holdings, all of it was mine. But I had no intention of becoming another Denise. The first thing I did was sign the documents establishing the Forrest Franklin Foundation, dedicating a significant portion of the inheritance to supporting young entrepreneurs from underserved communities. It felt right, a way to honor my father's quiet belief in me and to ensure his legacy was one of genuine support, not just wealth. You know, Harper 28 said, watching me sign the last form, vengeance can be a hungry thing. It can consume you, even after you've won. I looked out at the city skyline, the lights twinkling like distant stars. It's not vengeance, not anymore, I admitted. It's closure and a strange kind of emptiness. The family ties are shattered completely, but my self esteem, that's finally restored. I built my own kingdom, even if I needed Dad's final push to truly claim it. The victory was sweet, yes, but the cost was the absolute destruction of any hope for a normal family. That part stung, a dull ache beneath the triumph. A few days later, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a text, but an actual handwritten letter. The handwriting was familiar. Hallie, 26. I opened it slowly. Isla, it read. I heard about the foundation. It sounds good. I've been doing a lot of thinking about everything, about Mom, about us. You were right about so much. I'm sorry for not standing up for you, for resenting you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I had to say it. I hope you find peace. Maybe someday we can talk, just us, if you ever want to. I folded the letter, a faint, unfamiliar warmth spreading through me. Forgiveness. It was a word I hadn't considered in a long time. The future with Hallie was uncertain, a fragile possibility, but it was there. I walked to the window, looking out at the city, my city, the one I'd built my life